Where am I going? I was up on screen a minute ago. Right, let's get me back. Whoop. There, that's better. Hello everybody. Okay, what day is it? It's Tuesday. So look, we are continuing on with population dynamics. I'd love to know what you think of this topic. I actually think it's quite interesting. So yeah, if you feel like jotting down a line in the comments, letting me know what you make of it. That'd be great. We do loads of this kind of stuff in senior cycle and I love it. I think it's fascinating. Okay, so that's enough waffle. Basically, so far you are familiar with all the key terms. You are experts on what birth rates are and death rates are, natural increase, natural decrease, and you're able to calculate all of that. And that brings us nicely into the next topic. So what we're going to be looking at for the next couple of classes are the factors that affect population change. So we know that the birth rate can rise or fall, that the death rate can rise or fall, and depending on what's happening with the birth and death rates, that overall population can either grow quickly or it can decline. So populations can go up or they can go down. And we've looked at that in terms of the world population. And what you've seen is that at the very start, world population grew very steadily, then population explosion. So now we're going to take a look at the different factors that affect that. What has caused those changes in population? What has caused the birth rate to go up or the death rate to decline in different areas? And there's, you can probably think of a few of these yourselves because they're very obvious. I'm just going to get rid of me. Okay. So think throughout our world's history, what factors can cause populations to decline and what can cause populations to grow? So a really obvious one there, if there's fast population growth, what's happened? Probably more people are having more babies, so birth rate. But what causes more people to have more babies? So we'll be looking at that. And population decline, obviously linked to death rate, but what are the factors that influence death rate? So specifically these factors we're going to be looking at are the factors that cause the birth rate to change or the death rate to change. What are the factors that affect the birth rates and the death rates? Now, I'm sure you could name some, and if we were in class, I know you would be all scrambling to get an answer in, but for the moment, I'm just going to give you that answer. Okay, so the 6 main factors that affect population change are food supply, war, technological development, health, education, and the place of women in society. This is covered in your books, pages 325 to 328. This is a yellow slide, so this needs to go down into your hardbacks. So this is your title, kind of subtitle for this area here. And then if you want to do these as bullet points, and we are going to be going through these one by one. And at the end, I'll get you to take everything down. All right, so for the next few minutes, I just need you to listen. Right, so the first one we're going to have a look at is food supply. So how does the food supply affect, or what rates does it even affect? Okay, better food supply means that the death rate is decreased. Okay, so if we can feed more people and people have more nutrition and more immunity against stuff, then the death rate is going to be decreased. That's very obvious. So better food supply can cause the population to grow. Now my special effects seem to be a little bit behind here. Here we go. And it's a pity, when I made this, all of this was swaying in the wind. It's quite nice, but yeah, don't know why that's happening. Okay, so better food supply means less people will die and the population will grow. And we're going to take a look at some of the details of that. Now, there is a lot here, so please just stay with me. So the factor is over here, the impact is here, and the case studies are over here. So we're going to look at particular examples, okay? So when more food can be produced, there is population growth because the death rate decreases. People are more healthy. How can this happen? So more food can be produced by improvements to agriculture. Agriculture is just another word for farming. So the use of machinery. So if we're using combine harvesters, then we can harvest a lot more plants than if we were just using people. The use of fertilizers and pesticides. So fertilizers make the soil more fertile, and if it's more fertile, it can produce more crops. Pesticides will kill off the pests that could potentially damage the crops. And then the last one there is an interesting one, genetically modified crops. So this is when humans develop or they change crops in labs. And one example of this would be there's a type of grass that grows better in Africa because it's used to drought. So by making changes to crops, we can grow more of them. The opposite side of that is when less food can be produced, the population declines because the death rate increases. Less food is available when there's a famine and people starve or they're malnourished. So malnourished means that they're not getting enough food. If they're not getting enough nourishment and nutrients, then their immune system is compromised and they will die from other diseases. Obviously, if there's famine, people die from starvation. Or when crops fail because of diseases. This can happen. The best example of this is potato blight. Crops can also fail because of bad weather conditions. Again, drought or almost too much rainfall, or if there's a late spring freeze, that can kill off crops as well. All right, so food supply can cause population to grow if more food can be produced for these reasons. Food supply can also result in the population declining if less food is available. Examples then. So in India, something called the Green Revolution happened. I'm just having a sip of tea. Sorry, I'm parched. And it's called the Green Revolution because it was a revolution of farming and agriculture, and it improved farming because before that they had famines. So to stop this from happening, the government invested in irrigation. Do you remember what that is? So they used irrigation, they brought water to the crops, they invested in pesticides, and they invested in fertilizers. This effectively brought an end to famine, and since the Green Revolution they haven't had a famine in India, and there was rapid population growth. So this is a really good example of where increased food supply can cause population growth. On the opposite side of that then, the poor Irish people in the 1840s experienced famine because of potato blight. So Ireland was dependent on potato as our source of food. And because of the blight, because of the disease, we couldn't grow potatoes anymore. Over 1 million people died and the population went into decline. Okay, so you've got the factor, you've got the rate that it impacts on the death rate, and then you say whether the population increases or decreases, and then you back that up with examples. And this is the system that we're going to use for all of these factors. The next one there is war. Okay, now war can impact on both rates. Okay, it can increase the death rate. That's fairly self-explanatory because people die, not only soldiers but also civilians if cities are bombed, etc. It decreases the birth rate. Why? Because all the husbands are away at war, so the wives aren't having babies, I guess. But then and this will cause the population to decline. But then interestingly enough, let's just go back there. If there's more people dying and less people being born, population will decline. So what you have there is natural decrease. But in the years following war, you get something called a baby boom, where there's increased birth rates. So when you have the soldiers coming back and returning to their wives, you've got a time after war when a lot of people at the same time are having babies, and this is referred to as a baby boom. So let's just talk through this one then. And of course, baby boom will lead to population growth. Right, to the factor war. War results in the death of many people, including soldiers and civilians. And this is also important here. It can also cause the destruction of healthcare facilities, so hospitals get bombed, and it can reduce the food supply. So if you've got everybody away at war, there's less farmers to produce food, but also it's very difficult to get the food to market. All of these factors then will increase the death rate and will cause the population to decline. Added to that then, war will decrease the birth rate because so many young people are away from home. So both of these factors cause the population to decline. However, after war, when soldiers return home, there are higher than normal birth rates. This is known as baby boom, and it results in population growth. Example there is Germany during the World Wars. So Germany was affected by both the First and Second World Wars. Large numbers of soldiers and civilians were killed, and as a result, the population of Germany was reduced by 7 million in the 1940s. Now, 7 million, that's more than the population of Ireland at the moment. However, they did experience a baby boom after the war. So war initially, and the most obvious effect it has is that it causes the population to decline, but then some of that decline is balanced out by a baby boom that happens afterwards. All right, what do we got next? Healthcare. Okay, so again, fairly obvious one. Improvements to healthcare mean that the death rate decreases. So we've got better healthcare systems, then less people are going to die. This will then cause population growth. Okay. Yeah, let's have a look here. So here's the factors, a lot in this. Developed healthcare systems lower death rates. So a developed healthcare system is what we would have in Ireland or in the developed parts of the world. We have GPs, we've got clinics, we've got hospitals, we've got public health. And the reason why is that they provide the following. So vaccination programs. So as kids, you would have all gotten the vaccines against things like measles. When you came into secondary school, you would have gotten, you may have gotten the vaccine against the HPV virus. And hopefully we will all soon be vaccinated against this dreaded COVID. If you've got access to doctors and medication, for example antibiotics, well then that's going to help you survive diseases. And we also have screening programs here. So this is like preventative, where we're trying to find problems before they happen. An example of those are the breast check screening program and smear tests for women. And both of these are free services. Also, developed healthcare systems will have medical devices such as respirators, which help people breathe, heart valves, which help with heart blockages. All of these things here then will help people to live longer. And if people will live longer, the death rate will be lowered and it will increase the population. On the other side of this then, a major cause of death in the developing world and the poorer world is lack of access to clean water and sanitation. So sanitation means the safe removal of human waste. So look, bluntly put, when you go to the toilet, you don't have to worry about it. It all goes, you flush and off it goes. This is not the case in the developing world. So sanitation is the removal of that human waste so it doesn't come into contact with humans. And this is a problem in the developing world. Dirty water causes the death of 15 million children every year. And this is because of waterborne diseases such as cholera and diarrhea. And if you think back to Haiti, you remember the cholera outbreak there was caused through dirty water. So healthcare, if you have it, will cause the population to grow. If you don't have it, and you also don't have access to clean water or sanitation, then the population is going to decline. So the example in Ireland, life expectancy. So life expectancy means the average age people are expected to live at in Ireland is 81.5. And this is because we've got access to medical services. Every child in Ireland has access to free vaccines. Okay, and this is then why, because we have all of this here, we have a long life expectancy. However, access to clean water is a big problem in sub-Saharan Africa. This is the part of Africa that's just below the Sahara Desert. And one country there is Sierra Leone, and this is in West Africa. Only 60% of the population here have access to clean water, and life expectancy is much, much lower. It's only 51. All right, so that's healthcare. How are we doing on time? Okay, 12 minutes. I reckon that's probably about as much as you can take of me talking. So I'm going to leave this clip here, and I'm going to break this up into 2 different clips, and I'm going to put a small assignment for you up on Teams on assignments. Okay, so just to remind you, we've only done 3 of the 6 factors. You should just have taken 1 slide down into your hardback so far, and I'll wrap up the other 3 the next time. Okay, talk to you then.